myths about leadership. If you have recently been promoted to a leader position or have been a leader of some sort for a period of time, you may have encountered some inspiring ideas or theories about how to become a great leader. But have you ever attempted to test out the theories and failed miserably, and then you start to question yourself, did I do something wrong? How do other people do it? After a while, you start to question the theories themselves. In this video, I would like to debunk the top 5 great leader assumptions based on my real-life experience and personal observations. These 5 theories or ideas may be either inapplicable in certain contexts, or just simply widely misunderstood. Number 1. Boss versus leader. When it comes to the conversation of boss versus leader, it is almost always implied that one should thrive to adopt more of the leader's tactics and avoid the boss management style. In other words, using the tactics listed under leader is better than those under boss. However, this understanding of leadership styles is totally out of context, hence inapplicable to many cases. In fact, there are many levels of leader in an organization, and the leader model here seems to only speak to high-level management positions. In fact, if you are a shift leader in a cafeteria or a small assembly line, it is very likely that there is a checklist or a step-by-step sheet glued to the wall about what the workers are supposed to do every day. Even in cases where there's no written guidelines, your employees must have gone through some sort of verbal training before they start working. Hence, your job is to watch them and make sure that they do what the guidelines tell them to. And this does require of you some good micromanagement skills. In many cases, including the context of an office, your employees may be so incompetent that they do need to be told what to do step by step. Even so, they manage to mess up and say that you need to be even clearer than that. In the office environment, there are leader positions where your power is limited and nowhere in balance with your responsibilities or paychecks. Indeed, you may find yourself a project coordinator, where you are expected to manage the progress of all project team members, while being younger than most of them and having little experience or expertise in what they're doing. In other words, the real big boss is too busy to work closely with each and every team member, so he or she delegates part of their responsibilities to you, but still keep their power to make decisions. It is then latently understood that you are nobody's leader, but you have to act and be responsible like a leader. From my real-life observations, it is almost impossible for you in this case to earn respect and depend on goodwill. You may blame your manager for not empowering you enough, but that's the conversation for a different day, maybe a different video. The reality is you are now stuck to choose between demanding respect and hoping that they will magically respect you, despite your lack of experience and young-looking face. Let's be honest, it is a totally human thing to slack off if you find a chance to. Only in very rare cases may you find yourself working in an organization where all of the employees are so happy to work hard and given enough time to occasionally listen to your inspiring speech and become enthusiastic. Most of the time, you just find yourself working with a bunch of unsatisfied people who don't see why they have to work harder. Of course, generating fear is never the answer, but demanding respect is sometimes inevitable. Life is not like a movie where you have so much time to come up with a master plan of how you may gain a bunch of people's respect through a series of good deeds and an inspiring speech. In fact, if you spend your working hours doing such things, you may be fired before you can inspire anybody. Number 2. Leadership styles or compatibility. When training their staff about different leadership styles, organizations often leave the impression that they expect the managers to become the visionary kind, or at least the coach, the democratic, or the affiliative kind. This creates a misunderstanding that a great leader has to always speak with macro terms to inspire their staff, spend most of their time being the friend, the teacher, the idol that the employees want to talk with, and give them space to do their own thing. In real life though, I often see this leadership style work only in situations where you are a big boss and your direct subordinates are high-level managers themselves. Because in this case, you can be sure that their capabilities match their imagination of what they can achieve. This style also works in situations of creative teams, where everyone in the team is quite talented and smart, hence they don't need clear instructions, but inspirations instead. But such a team faces all the problems, such as everyone thinks they should be the leader no matter how nice, respectful, and inspiring the current leader already is. I've heard from a Swedish friend that in some organizations in Sweden, teams are made with no leader. In other words, everyone is a leader of their own work, and somehow that works out great for them. But I believe this model can only work if all team members are highly educated and well-behaved. During my time working as a leader, I've worked with quite different personalities that demand so many different things from their leader. In fact, only one of them actually wanted to be inspired and given space to roam because she was a creative person. For the rest of them, they may have felt very inspired at first when I gave them a new project with an inspiring speech about my expectations and not step-by-step instructions, hoping that they will explore different ways to achieve the expected result on their own. However, they often came back with very poor ideas and disappointing results. When told that the results were not good enough, they would blame me for not giving clear enough instructions. The point here is, they did feel inspired at first, but due to their limited capabilities, they couldn't find new solutions or explore new ways of doing things. Maybe during that training course about leadership, they should have told us that all leadership styles ought to coexist and complement one another. If you are a certain type of leader and having trouble leading your team members, changing your leadership style isn't going to solve the problem. But it's two things that will. Number 1, become a flexible leader. And number 2, find the right team players. Number 2 always appears in leadership courses and teaching materials, but it's not resonated enough. It's like they just skip through this quickly so that they can jump to the part where they tell you how all the problems in this world stem from you, the leader. But hey, if you get to pick your own team members, then the problem and solution do stem from you. The tricky part is, in some cases, you are a powerless leader that is not allowed to pick your own team members. Or you are appointed to a leader position of an existing team where the members kinda hate you for scooping their dream job. Anyway, let's get to the point here. What does it mean to be a flexible leader? As explained before in this video, not all employees can be led by a nice, respectful, and angelic leader. There must be a balance between fear and respect in the workplace. In fact, when a co-worker told me your subordinate refused to leave work early to go shopping with me today because she feared you wouldn't like it, I just found it funny because you are such a likable person. I didn't find it irritating or offensive at all that my subordinate feared me a little. In fact, if they realize what will bother their supervisor and choose not to do it, is a balance between respect and fear. If one day your subordinate just leaves work to go shopping without getting your approval, thinking that you are a nice person so you wouldn't mind, it really doesn't prove that you are an inspiring and nice leader. It just proves that they have no respect for you. Don't just try to be their friend, be something in between. Employees are not machines. They have different personalities and aspirations. Based on these, you gotta choose your own way of treating them and use different styles with the same person in different situations. This means you may be a completely different person to one team member as you are to another, and at one time you may be very understanding and soft, but at another time you have to be tough and demanding. For instance, a soft-spoken employee may require a lot of comforting, conversations, and verbal support, while a go-getter just needs a short list of your expectations and some inspiring suggestions. A super lazy employee may be bad at time management, so you may need to set up a reminder system for him or her that tells them what to do and when to do it. And for the lazy and absent-minded employees, you know damn well that you really can't trust that they will perform well, so please leave that BS behind. The hard truth is, even when you try to combine different tactics from different leadership styles to match with your employees' personalities, there will always be that one type of person that you simply can't work with. Finding the right team player isn't always about their talent. I believe it's also about your compatibility with them. If they just don't get you, and you just don't get them, and no matter what you try, they won't give you a chance, it's time to let them go. The right team player isn't someone who knows the game. It is someone who is willing to play with you. There are people who are inherently jealous of you because they believe they should be the leader and not you. And yes, they are very talented, but they're spending all of their talent and time in proving that you don't deserve to lead them, instead of playing the game with you. There are people who, let's just be honest for once, are too stupid to do the job. And no matter how many different leadership styles you've tried, they just don't get any better. They just simply need time, maybe an internship, at a simpler job, but not here and not now. Let them go. It's funny how they've come up with so many lessons about how to be a great leader, but they barely talk enough about how to be a great team player. Number 3, using employees. Don't use your employees, coach them. This is right, but it can be misunderstood a lot by the employees themselves. There are people coming to work thinking their manager owes them big time for the work that they're doing, despite the fact that they get paid fair and square and on time every month. Maybe they've forgotten that we all sell our labor for a price. Let's face it, your employees are used no matter what you try to make it look like. And you are used too. If you've been in the workplace for long enough, you know that we all are just tools that organizations use to achieve their dreams. We here include both the leaders and their team members, except for some very wrong cases of managers actually exploiting their subordinates. Most of the time, I see that managers are the ones who have to work much harder than their employees and are exploited way more than they are paid to do. And on this note about being used even as a leader, let's dive in a little deeper. Do you find yourself more of a commanding or pace-setting kind of leader, or even worse, a boss and not a leader? If so, why do you think they chose to give the leader position to you and not someone else? Of course they told you it is because you have great potentials, and that is true, but it is also a strategy that some organizations use to exploit people. To hire a well-versed manager costs like crazy. So instead, they hire someone with a little less expertise in leadership and use that as an excuse to pay you less. This leads to an inevitable consequence that you are not respected and followed by your team members. On top of that, you constantly hear your employer asking you to improve your leadership skills. In fact, they use your lack of leadership expertise as a way to keep your salary as low as possible and as a bait that motivates you to work extra hard to compensate for your team members slacking off. Maybe they even promised you a raise if you can overcome the challenge. Oh, every employee loves challenges and promises. But from what I've seen, it usually takes a shrewd and compassionate person about 10 years to become a truly good leader. In many cases, the person is just too mean and evil and has no intention to become a good leader at all. The skills are quite hard to obtain, as you can see, so they can always keep their promise of giving you a raise or a promotion without having to do it very often. Number 4. Coaching or just letting your employees work. Let's say you have to coach your employees. The thing is, many people go to work to make money and to explore life by themselves. They don't consider work a school where they have a teacher. In fact, I've seen some leaders really immersing themselves in training their employees to a point that it almost becomes a classroom. From the inside, they see themselves as heroes, teaching people how to solve a problem the way they know it. From the outside, I see their employees feeling condescended and uncomfortable that they are forced to solve a problem in a way that they don't believe in. Here's the thing. It is a human nature to want to explore and make mistakes and learn from their own experience. It is always a better feeling when you discover the solution by yourself than having to share credits with others. They don't want to live their whole life under your shadow and never get recognized for what they worked hard on. Here's a quote from Simon Sinek that I really like.
Imagine we're standing in a big empty room, right? And we're standing in one corner, and I give you a simple instruction. I want you to go to that corner in a straight line, right? Off you go, no big deal, right? Without telling you, I slip a chair in front of you. What do? You go around the chair. Now you just disobeyed what I told you to do. I told you to go to that corner straight line. But this is the amazing things about human beings, which is when we're given a clear destination, we use our own creativity and our own sense of innovation and our own problem-solving abilities to overcome obstacles to get to the destination. In other words, the destination is more important than the route, right? We are flexible about the route. We are obsessed with the destination. Reset. We're standing in the corner together, and I give you a simple instruction. Go somewhere in this room in a straight line. And you say to me, well, where do you want me to go? I'm like, I don't know. You're smart. Figure it out. Go in a straight line. And so you pick a point, and you start walking. And without telling you, I put a chair in front of you. And what do? You come to a grinding halt. And I say, what did you stop for? You go, well, you put a chair in front of me.
You see, if you coach them step by step how to get from A to C, some of them will intentionally stop at obstacle B and say,
your solution didn't work. You couldn't predict obstacle B. See, it's right there in the middle of the road. And since you didn't teach me this, I'm just gonna stand at B forever.
This really goes back to number 2, where I said you need to find the right leadership style that works for your employee. Some of them are smart and very stubborn, and won't like it at all if you start to preach to them how to do things. They prefer that you just tell them your expectations and allow them to make mistakes. Some others, who are smart and also wise, however, will love to withdraw as much knowledge from you as possible, because they are the foxes who care more about getting ahead of the game than building everything from scratch. But on your way to finding the right team member, you might prefer those who are slow and loyal, or stubborn but honest, than the foxes. To end number 4, I would like to remind you that even the foxes don't like to be coached and share credits, but they're smart enough to keep that secret to themselves until they have learned all that they can from you. So why try to coach somebody that doesn't really like to be coached? The most common expectation of the leader that I've heard from office workers is,
As long as they let me do my job, I'm okay with them.
it's that simple. They just want to do their job, don't want to be treated like a student. If you are pressured from the top managers to improve your subordinate skills and competence, just find them a course or a trainer from outside the team, ideally from outside the organization even. That way, they still appreciate that you care about their development and won't feel irritated that their boss is trying to look smarter than them by acting like a teacher. Number 5. Manage the results, don't manage the people. When I was nobody's leader, I used to agree with those who said that quote. But after taking on the leader's position, I realized 2 things. Number 1, people management is actually a skill set expected to be performed by a leader. Whether they want to or not, they have to take on that responsibility. Number 2, people management goes hand in hand with all other kinds of management. For example, you see that an employee is not performing well because he's having a crush on someone that's refused him. You think you can just ignore that and his performance will automatically skyrocket? A wise manager will have an intimate conversation with this guy outside of work about life and stuff. In fact, conversations about life often help a lot with relationships in the workplace because they make you sound more like a human and not just a manager figure at work. If you find yourself reluctant to let go of being the best employee with the most knowledge about your work field, to adopt some people skills and become less involved in the doing but more in the planning and overseeing parts of a project, then stick with a low-level leader position. The high-level manager positions are not meant for everyone, and you don't have to be the most skillful and knowledgeable person in your department to be a manager, even if that's what some of your staff may believe. A great leader once told me, what makes a great leader is their compassion. If you can see through why a person acts or thinks a certain way, you won't blame them. You will try to help them. That's a wrap for today. Comment below to share with me your leadership story. See you in my upcoming videos.